welcome to All Creatures Podcast. This is Angie, and today I have a really exciting interview. We're going to be talking all about chimpanzees, which of course is our closest relative, and we'll be talking today about Save the Chimps, which is an incredible nonprofit foundation that works on rehabilitating and giving homes to chimpanzees throughout the United States. And I'm really excited today to be talking with Dr. Andrew Halloran. He is the director of the chimpanzee behavior and care at Save the Chimps. And Dr. Halloran specializes in behavior, which is one of my favorites, of course, and ecology of primates. He spent 20 years in primate care and the promotion of their overall welfare and well-being. He's been with Save the Chimps since 2016, and in 2012, Dr. Halloran published a book called The Song of the Ape, Understanding the Language of Chimpanzees. So today, he's going to give us a lot of insight, not only about chimpanzees, but also about the amazing nonprofit Save the Chimps. So welcome, Dr. Halloran. Nice to have you.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. And our audience should know Dr. Halloran and Save the Chimps is located in Florida. So we're neighbors for the most part, separated by about 3 hours or so. And it's definitely on my bucket list to come down there and see your amazing facility. I've heard great things about it from my husband and a lot of his students at the Santa Fe College Teaching Zoo. So this is a long overdue interview, and I'm just so excited to talk to you today.
Great. Nice being here.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. Before we get started, would you mind giving our listeners a little bit of your background? Did you always have interest in animals, natures, and great apes?
Sure. I mean, growing up, animals was my biggest interest. There's a lot of kids have interests in animals. The animals that I was most interested in growing up were like whales and dolphins. I grew up in Florida, and whales always fascinated me, and always kind of read up on whales and things like that. And that kind of spilled over into being interested in great apes, very interested in gorillas, and of course chimpanzees. Really kind of came to a head for me when I was growing up. I moved from Florida to Atlanta, Georgia, and the zoo in Atlanta when I moved there was going through bad times. It was decaying, and it was actually rated as I think, if not the worst zoo in the country, one of the worst zoos in the country. And,
oh no!
So they had a gorilla there who was kind of a local celebrity. His name was Willie B, and he was very popular around Atlanta. He was even nationally known. He was on a show called That's Incredible, which is really dating me. But the zoo went through this renaissance while I lived there, and they changed everything. And it gave Willie B this rainforest habitat and gave him all sorts of companions. And so as a teenager, watching Willie B acclimate to this new habitat was, not just heartwarming to see this chimp or this gorilla that had been in a pretty nasty environment for so long, kind of explore this outdoor area and, have friends for the first time. And he had a bunch of offspring. And that really solidified an interest in great apes. And, gorillas are, is a great gateway drug to chimpanzees. And once I started really delving into chimpanzees, I haven't turned back since.
I know. Yeah, I always say this on the podcast. It's a regret of mine not working with great apes. I got to be a zookeeper for about 7 years, and I love animals with hooves and horns, and I took care of birds and small primates and reptiles. But yeah, I never made my way to great apes, and to this day, I'm kind of kicking myself. So maybe in my next life or later on, because it is the times I'd go over there and visit, and all the just the behavioral research they were doing at the Lincoln Park Zoo. It's just incredible. And now that I actually am studying more about the behavior and talking with experts like yourselves, yeah, I'm really kicking myself that I didn't, I never had that gateway drug, darn it.
Well, it's never too late to start. So yeah.
That's true. Exactly. No, this podcast has definitely opened up my eyes for sure. And so besides Willie, do you have another favorite great ape or animal interaction story that really got you going?
Yeah, so I started off working as I first started off at Zoo Atlanta, but then became a zookeeper and went to a place called Lion Country Safari, where I worked with a whole lot of chimps there. And the thing that's so fascinating when you work with chimps every day is how you really stop thinking about them as a different species, and while at the same time avoiding anthropomorphism and all of that, but you start to understand them as individuals and seeing their different personalities and their different quirks and watching them is really something that's fascinating when you work with them. There was a chimp at Lion Country, a big guy named Ozzy, and Ozzy was he looked like a gorilla. He's a big round guy, and the chimps. If you've never been to Lion Country Safari, the chimps live out on islands, and the islands are connected by this kind of drawbridge system. And each day there's an empty island. You go set it up, and then you extend the bridge, and the chimps go across the bridge and find food and all of that. It was Halloween, so we'd thrown pumpkins all around the island, and for Halloween we had actually taken the tops off and filled the pumpkins with all sorts of treats and put the tops back on. And the chimps didn't know that we had done that, and so we extended the bridge, and they walked right by the pumpkins, and the pumpkins is kind of a big squash, and went to the area where the good food was. Ozzy though he was gonna I guess pick up a pumpkin and just chuck it across the island, as chimps will do. And so he picked up the pumpkin by the top, and when he did it, the pumpkin, the top came off, and the pumpkin was down on the ground. He looked inside the pumpkin and saw that there was all sorts of treats inside the pumpkin. He looked over at the rest of his group. They hadn't seen what happened. They were happily eating. And Ozzy very quietly put the lid back on the pumpkin and went around and gathered every pumpkin on the island and sat at the back of the island and ate way too many treats for a chimpanzee, and ate it silently. At the same time, I was in grad school, and we were talking about a notion called theory of mind, that there's it's only humans that have theories of mind. We're the only ones that understand that we possess knowledge that other individuals don't. And this happened like literally the day of that lecture. And I'm saying, Ozzy clearly knew that they didn't know that there was treats in the pumpkin. And so, things like that, those things happen every single day that you work with chimps, and just these really interesting things where you're thinking, well, God, what else is going on in their head, and what's going on in their head that is it's like how we think, and what's going on in their head that isn't like how we think. And that really made me want to study them more and more.
Yeah, what a great story. That actually sounds like me with my kids' bag of Halloween candy. Hiding, like not letting them hear the wrapper sound.
Oh, yeah. Eating it all for yourself.
Yeah. And now we know that chimpanzees are currently endangered in the wild. And can you explain to our audience, besides, the fact that they are incredibly intelligent and all of that, why should the average person want to conserve them and learn more about chimpanzees?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, chimpanzees are our closest relative. Genetically, on an evolutionary scale, we're cousins, if you will. And so, seeing our closest living relatives go through the ecological impairment that they go through, it should concern everyone. Chimpanzees are an incredibly resilient species in that they're very human-like. They're super adaptable. So if chimpanzees are having ecological impairment, it's very connected to what our own species is going through. So, chimps. A lot of people don't maybe have a misconception of why chimps are so ecologically imperiled, and they think, well, it's you hear a lot about poaching and things like that, and and that does happen, but the thing that's really plaguing chimpanzees is that the habitats are disappearing at an exponential rate, and that should scare everyone, whether you're interested in chimpanzees or not. The I do conservation work in Sierra Leone, and in the decade that I've been doing that, just it's visibly less when you're going around the amount of habitat that's lost, and that's not because local Sierra Leoneans are using more land. That's because the entire rest of the world is using the land in that area, and especially in places like West Africa and in places like these very poor countries. That land is used for anything from, ethanol, what we put in our gas tanks, to diamond mining, to all sorts of things. And the ones who pay the price for that on the surface are chimpanzees, because that's their habitat, in addition to the other animals that live there. And but it's interesting to think about chimpanzees in terms of their resilience. 50 years ago in Sierra Leone, there were big cats, there were elephants. 25 years ago, there were no more big cats, but there were still elephants. Today, there's no elephants, and there's just chimpanzees. So they're the last holdout. And the only reason they're the last holdout is because of that resilience, because of the adaptability to these things. And so when you get down to that level, every single person should be concerned, because that's a bellwether to the health of our entire planet. And so that's why everyone should be concerned with how chimpanzees are doing, and everyone should really strive to educate themselves as to what practices do we do, whether we're sitting in Florida or anywhere in the U.S. or in Europe or wherever. What are we doing that's having an effect on species in these remote places we may never go to, small little places in West Africa, and how does that affect the entire health of the planet? And the more you turn the page in that book, it gets scarier and scarier. So that's why everyone should be concerned.
No, that's an excellent answer. And I definitely agree that if we are able to save chimpanzees, and we can save ourselves because we're so interconnected, as you mentioned. And a lot of us are lucky enough to live near like an accredited zoo or a place where we've been able to have an interaction with a chimpanzee or a great ape. But a lot of public might not be familiar with the history of chimpanzees in the United States in regards to them being used in research, private ownership, and then also within the private ownership, the use in entertainment. So I wondered if you could touch on and help educate us a little bit about those three topics. Are chimpanzees currently used in research, or have most of them been retired as sanctuaries? Where does that stand?
So chimpanzees are no longer being used in research, which is a really good thing. They are, however, still sitting in laboratories, and there's currently a debate for some of those chimps whether it is better to move them to sanctuaries or better to let them age in place where they are. And there's there's people on both sides with very powerful arguments on that. I obviously think that chimpanzees would be better served if it's safe to move them at a place like Save the Chimps or some of the other sanctuaries where they have the opportunity to live in large social groups. At Save the Chimps, they live out in large spaces. We have islands that are upwards of 5 acres where we try and give them things like freedom of choice. They can sleep where they want to sleep. They can hang out with who they want to hang out with, and all of that. So that's kind of the current state. There's a lot of chimpanzees in need right now, and the other thing that people should consider is it's great news for chimpanzees that they're not being used in research. However, if you're other types of primates, if you're a rhesus macaque, the news isn't so good because you're being used quite a bit. So it's the issue is still out there, and people that are concerned about the welfare of very sentient creatures should, that look not just at chimpanzees, but the other animals that are being used for human benefit in a way that we might not, we might have trouble with their state of welfare right now. Chimpanzees are, the big thing about chimpanzees that they're so human-like is has been, from a welfare standpoint, kind of the worst thing for them. And people might wonder, okay, well, why do you always talk about avoiding anthropomorphism and things like that? Anthropomorphism being viewing chimpanzees only in human terms and only really comparing chimpanzees to humans. Well, one, scientifically, chimpanzees are so much more than little almost humans. They are a species in their own right. They have amazing things about them that have nothing to do with a comparison to humans. That's just scientifically fascinating. From a welfare standpoint, though, is that treatment of chimpanzees as little almost humans has led to huge welfare issues with chimpanzees. It led to chimpanzees being, captured, going back hundreds of years and exhibited in the Western world. It's led to pretty rough conditions as far as invasive research goes. It's led to some pretty rough ways of exhibiting chimpanzees for the entertainment of people and obviously the pet trade. And so when I see chimps kind of portrayed as little almost humans, it really, I don't view that well. And I think that's something that chimpanzees have to work to overcome. I think that it happens in all angles. And in everyone's defense, it's really hard to not anthropomorphize a chimpanzee because they are so human-like. But again, it's done quite a bit to their detriment.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like, oh, how wonderful! I can just put this chimpanzee in overalls and laugh at it, and it acts like a human. It seems like a human, and I know from my own background, before I ever was in the zoo industry or was educated enough to know any better, I would have thought that was cute and funny as well. But throughout my tenure working at the zoo and working at Lincoln Park Zoo, the primate department there was really involved with trying to reduce the use of chimpanzees for entertainment purposes. Because as I learned, and maybe you can help share with our listeners, that it's cute and fun while it lasts theoretically, but it doesn't last long. Their stardom and commercials, whether it's a Super Bowl commercial or whatever it is, it's a short-lived stardom career, and then they're often just rejected to the side. So could you maybe touch on that a little bit and help educate our listeners about why it's not so cute and funny when we see them in commercials or on cards or any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, first off, chimps are extremely dangerous. It's whereas you might be able to have a very young chimpanzee in a commercial or in movies. You can't have even an adolescent, especially not an adult chimpanzee, in the same type of entertainment situation. And that's true of pet chimpanzees, that's true of entertainment chimpanzees. And what ultimately happens is that once these chimps become of age, they end up languishing in a holding area, and the ones that are not lucky enough to find their ways to sanctuaries are stuck in really bad circumstances, usually alone, which is a state that's really, really terrible for a chimpanzee. And so, there's a million reasons not to support chimpanzees in entertainment. There's also a million reasons not to support chimpanzees as pets. But the main one is that once the chimpanzee gets too old, they are too dangerous to have as a pet. They're too dangerous to work with on a movie set. And so if you care about that chimpanzee, that chimp is doomed at a certain age to live a life of isolation, to live a life where movement is hugely restricted, and that's a big problem. So you can even take very high profile chimpanzees from very wealthy people. Michael Jackson had a chimpanzee named Bubbles, and even Michael Jackson, with all his resources and the ability, couldn't continue having that chimpanzee. Luckily, that chimp now lives in a really great sanctuary called Center for Great Apes. But a lot of chimps are not so lucky and end up languishing in places that are really nasty. So that's one of the many reasons not to have them. And this history goes back a long way. Back in the early part of the century, scientists, psychologists, were really interested in how chimpanzees could do in a human home, with this idea that chimpanzees are so intelligent, they're so much like us. If you raised a chimpanzee in a human home, they basically become little humans. And there's a very famous study of this where it's a chimpanzee named Gua, and Gua was at Robert Yerkes, who was a very famous psychologist back in the early part of the century, sent this baby chimpanzee to a guy named William Kellogg, who lived in Indiana. Kellogg had just had a new baby, and the idea was, could you raise Gua alongside this new baby, Donald? And they did everything just like Donald, and Gua ate from a high chair. They put her to bed, and say prayers, brush her teeth, and everything like you would with raising a child. And to see, maybe Gua will learn to talk. Maybe Gua will learn to be just like a human. Well, the opposite actually happened. Donald actually acted more like a chimp than Gua acted like a human.
Oh my goodness!
And
wow, there's a twist.
Yeah, and after a short period of time, Donald's mother said, Gua has to go, and so they sent Gua back to Yerkes' place, which was in Orange Park, Florida at the time. And unfortunately, Gua died several months later alone in a cage. And so that's the end result of that welfare issue. And you see that played out with a lot of chimpanzees who were used as pets, a lot of chimpanzees who were used in entertainment, because they grow up with this socialization. They grow up with parental care, even though it's human parental care, and that's something that's very necessary for a chimpanzee. And then all of a sudden they're isolated and abandoned, and horrible things happen at that point. So yeah, there's a lot of good sound reasons not to support live chimpanzees in entertainment, and chimpanzees being used as pets.
Yeah, I think it was really helpful for me explaining to family and friends when I learned about this years and years ago, was just when you do see them on a commercial, if you do, or on a birthday card or whatever it is, you just have to note to yourself, like that is a, younger than a teenager. Like that is a young chimpanzee. That is not an adult chimpanzee. You cannot do those types of things with an adult chimpanzee because, well, it would be very, 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 very unsafe. And so for me, that was helpful. And hopefully for our listeners, that's kind of maybe a way. And maybe for our listeners, that's a way that they can help explain it to some of their friends and family as well. It's not a good idea. And thank goodness for several of these sanctuaries here in the United States to take in some of these chimpanzees that are just left behind, unfortunately. And so I want to shift gears now and focus on Save the Chimps. And I was wondering, I know they have a nice long history. So if you could give us a brief little description about how the Save the Chimps was founded and a little bit about their background.
Sure. So back in the late 90s, our founder, a woman named Dr. Carol Noon, sued the Air Force for the chimps that they were still currently being housed at Halloran Air Force Base. And she won that suit. And that led to the creation of the sanctuary. And the idea being that the chimpanzees could live outside on these island habitats. And the island habitats are good because they lend themselves to a lot of space. So there's a water barrier, and the chimps can't swim. And that allows for the chimps to not live behind mesh and have this lots and lots of space as they're going about their day. So the first group came, and it was wildly successful. And a few years later, the Colston Foundation in New Mexico, they were a kind of laboratory holding facility. A lot of the chimps would get kind of farmed out to other labs, and they actually had the most animal welfare violations of any other place. They had fallen under some pretty hard financial times, and basically Save the Chimps got ownership of that place. And so the first thing that they did was they enabled some introductions so that the chimps would get to know each other. They changed the way, the structure at Colston so that the chimps would be able to see the sky. It would be a more open area. And then finally, over a very long period of time, the chimps were moved. They were able to move the chimps to Florida, a very painstaking process where the chimps went in the back of this retrofitted RV trailer where the chimps they all had a window seat. They were all able to look outside on this very long journey. And slowly but surely, this place was being built, and 12 islands were being dug. Each island has a house attached to it where the chimps can sleep inside. And they were slowly brought here, and in that process, the groups were created and formed, and here we are today.
That's incredible. And with Save the Chimps, I know you have a mission of lifelong care. So can you expand on that a little bit more? What the goals are of your organization?
Yeah. So as anyone that cares for chimpanzees can attest to, chimpanzee care is a science. They're not an easy species to take care of because they are so intelligent, they are so strong, they are so resilient, all of those things. And they have very, very specific needs that really have to be met. And some of those needs are, well, in my mind especially, is the ability for freedom of choice, the ability to make choices, the ability to have some possession of your own destiny. And that's something that is not easy to do when you're in a captive environment. So there's a real science in determining, okay, how can we provide, freedom of choice, being, in charge of your own destiny to a group of chimpanzees that are ultimately still captive. And so, we actually have kind of these stated care goals that we have. Like, what is our definition of chimpanzee well-being? What is our definition of providing that lifelong sanctuary and care that's a good thing for these chimpanzees? And those are things like, we want to provide a rich social environment. We want to provide an enriching environment. We don't want a place where chimpanzees can get bored. And that's not a small feat for an animal like chimpanzees that are so intelligent and that require a lot of stimulation. At the same time, we also have to come with it from the recognition that chimpanzees are individuals and they all have unique histories and unique individual histories. And that's going to carry with it its own set of challenges for each individual. And especially chimps that have come from situations like the chimps that live here have, is that we really strive for individualized care. So, we do a lot where, we work, the curators and the care technicians and myself, we do a lot of observations on the chimpanzees to see what is the state of their welfare. And we come up with individualized care plans for the chimps that really need it. And providing individualized care to 238 chimpanzees is a lot, and it's a big lift. But that's what we owe to these chimpanzees that are in our charge. And so that's when we say we're providing lifelong care, lifelong sanctuary, the words in between that sentence are that we need to provide care that chimpanzees need for their well-being to allow them to thrive. And it's not as easy as just saying, hey, here's an island, here's a lot of space, go run around and be happy. It's not that easy. These chimpanzees, have needs that need to be met, and that's the way we can provide the care that we state in our mission.
So yes, Dr. Halloran, I think you bring up a really, really important point that I'd like to stress, is that I think people will often think, oh, well, we'll just let the lab animals go, or, oh, we'll put them back in the wild, or we'll just move everything to a sanctuary and it'll be hunky-dory. And the truth is that for a lot of animals moved into a sanctuary type setting, or even some animals, of course, are released in the wild after proper science has been done to see if that works and things like that. It does work, but I'm sure, like you said, there's 238 chimpanzees under your care. It's not always that easy to take an animal that's lived a solitary life and not so great circumstances, and then you put the chimpanzee on an island with friends and off they go, and it's just a happy after type ending, happily ever after. So do you have a story that you can maybe relate to our listeners about a chimpanzee currently under your care that maybe had a background story that's tough, or that their transition is still ongoing or wasn't as smooth as you would like?
Sure. A chimpanzee that I like to talk about quite a bit is a chimpanzee named Allie, and Allie had been a pet chimpanzee, and Allie didn't come from a bad home, so to speak. I mean, the people that took care of Allie were very loving people. They are very loving people. They really, loved Allie, wanted the best for this chimp, tried to provide everything that you could provide a chimpanzee, and but it's really, really hard to meet the needs of a chimpanzee. And again, they get big and all of that. So Allie came to us, with this background where, Allie hadn't been abused. Allie, there hadn't been, kind of, the classic things that we talk about, with a lot of sanctuary chimps. However, Allie didn't really know how to be a chimp and didn't really even recognize herself as a chimpanzee. Allie was definitely more comfortable with us than she was other chimpanzees. Allie arrived in the middle of the night, and when she came in, we sat together, and I was showing her different music videos on my phone, and so she was interested in that. And so integrating Allie into a social group has been something that has been a long process and a scientific process where one, we needed to match the personalities. Allie began the process of integrating into a group several years ago, 2.5 years ago. That's how long that process takes, because not just because the chimps are gonna be introduced and they're going to tear each other up. It's not even that simple. We have to take into consideration Allie's well-being, her psychological well-being, how stressful that is for her, and through a slow process of matching personalities and doing this carefully. Allie has now been is now a big part of this group, and she fits all the indicators of thriving in this group. And there was a lot of work behind that. And so if we had just taken Allie and said, here's your group, here's your island, that would have been, well, we wouldn't have fulfilled our commitment to this chimpanzee. It would have been, even if everything had gone well and there hadn't been big aggressive acts, which there would have been, the stress that would have done to her would have been huge. So that's an example of that. But I think it's important to clarify, when people wonder why, well, chimpanzees that have been in sanctuaries, can they go back to the wild? Or let's say there's, most animals that are in, some negative circumstances, can they just be set free?
Yeah,
and it's not that easy. In the case of chimpanzees, one, there's habitat loss, so there's not a place to really put them, to release them. And two, where there is habitats, there's other chimp groups that usually occupy that habitat. And so re-releasing chimpanzees is not something that you can really do. And even the sanctuaries in Africa, which deal with chimpanzees that have been captured from the wild and taken as pets, they can't be returned to the wild. So that's something that people need to realize, that when you're looking at freedom or or rescue or rehabilitation for chimpanzees that have been in situations like that, it's not about returning them to a big forest in West Africa. It's about supporting sanctuaries where they can achieve the things that we try to achieve here, the freedom of choice and the social environment and all of those things, to give them the best possible life they can be given within with the variables that we're dealt with. That captivity is something that is going to be, but can we make it to where we give them the best possible life in that situation that we can?
Yes, no, I agree, and thank you for that. And now, Dr. Halloran, we've touched on it a little bit, but could you describe Save the Chimps, the acreage, the islands, how it's set up, and how the chimpanzees that are on the islands, how do they spend their day?
There's 12 islands. These islands are very large. Our largest island is almost 5 acres long. 5 acres large, and they're connected by land bridge to a house. Each island has its own house. The house has 6 different rooms in it, and what we strive for is that the chimps have the choice to be inside or outside, and we don't force them to do either one. Unlike a zoo, we don't need them to be outside to be exhibited or anything like that. So if they want to be inside, they can be inside. And many of the chimps, just given their past, are definitely more comfortable staying inside. But they always have that option. We feed them though, only inside. And the reason we do that is so that we can check them, so that we see them 3 times a day. They get 3 meals a day where they come in. Staff can get a good up close look at them. Everyone is fed individually, and then they can do what they please. Each day, staff just like you would at a zoo, clean the indoor holding facility and clean the island habitats, so that they're always getting a clean environment. The other thing that they get several times a day is enrichment. And for anyone that's not familiar with enrichment, it's something to stimulate the chimpanzees mentally. So it might be something as simple as kind of a puzzle board where chimpanzees have to manipulate a puzzle in order to get a treat out of it. We also have artificial termite mounds on the island. We can fill these termite mounds with good stuff inside, like oatmeal and things like that. And the chimps actually use sticks to stick it in the termite holes and get it out. It might be something for the guys that like to stay inside. So we'll do something like throw a movie on, part of that enrichment is any sort of sensory stimulation. We try not to rely on just food stimulation for that. We want enrichment to promote movement as well as mental stimulation. So we try and do that as much as possible. And during the day, as staff are there, we also are able to observe them both on the islands and inside, and we can get an assessment on the current state of well-being that way.
That's awesome. And that kind of leads to my next question. As far as behavior observations, I've been lucky enough to take observations on several different species and several different under human care in the wild, etc. And I was wondering, do you have behavioralists or researchers that come in to do observations on your chimpanzees?
We don't. That's something that we've had in the past, where outside people have observed the chimps. We do that in-house. We actually have we call it care and welfare assessments, and we have a set of indicators, and staff do these each day.
Awesome.
And we don't do all the chimps at once. We do like 20 chimps for a 60-day period, and then we roll over to the next 20 chimps. And at the end of that period, we create reports on their state of welfare, and those reports are used to create care plans, individualized care plans if they're needed. We meet with veterinarians. We have 3 full-time veterinarians on staff that we meet with to kind of determine what's an appropriate care plan for the chimpanzees.
Wow, that does sound like a dream job. I get to be around chimpanzees and take behavior observations and welfare. Oh, that's incredible. And now, are you open to the public under different tours or anything like that, or is it closed to the public?
Well, right now, due to COVID, we don't have anyone from the outside coming on. The real unfortunate part of that is we don't even have our volunteers on site right now, and volunteers represent a big help to us.
Sure.
So it's the only people on site are the people involved in the direct care, and so right now we don't. However, in pre-COVID times and in hopefully soon post-COVID times, we do what we call member days, and those are days where we are open to the public and we give tours. And people come and learn about the sanctuary, learn about what we do. We also do some fun things, like we do a chimpathon, which is actually I guess it's not considered a marathon, like a 6K.
That's more my style.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that goes through the sanctuary, and
Cool.
Obviously we're open to the public then. And we do private tours here and there, but for the most part, we're closed to the public. And kind of the big philosophical reason for that is that our mission is to provide care, and but at the same time, if we could hope to educate people about care, welfare, and preservation of chimpanzees, that's a great thing too.
Well, yes, and you touched on a little bit with COVID-19, how it's obviously impacted your volunteer staff, which I'm sorry to hear that because I know there's so many animal care facilities that are struggling with that because volunteers make up such a huge part of their organization. And then you're not open to the public, but are there other ways that COVID-19 has impacted your organization, or how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so one of the things that is done is that we've increased massively the kind of PPE, personal protective equipment, that we use. We've added face shields and things like that. In addition to masks, we've upgraded the masks we used to use, just kind of the earlobe masks. Now we use the N95 masks.
Wow.
And we've always had a distance protocol where staff can't get closer than a certain distance to the chimpanzees. So luckily, we've always had that in place, just because we're always mindful of the risk of any sort of zoonosis or disease
Of
transfer
course.
between humans
Yeah.
and chimps, which chimps are so similar to humans that that's a huge consideration always to take. But we really have to be extremely careful, because while there hasn't been anything documented on chimpanzees contracting COVID from humans, that doesn't mean that it can't happen. And our population is old. We have a mostly geriatric population of chimpanzees, and also many of our chimpanzees have pre-existing conditions. Most captive chimpanzees have heart conditions, and that's something that people are exploring and studying. But in addition to that, we have chimpanzees with liver and kidney and issues that obviously would be real susceptible to COVID. So we are doing everything we can to make sure that COVID doesn't get into our chimpanzee population.
Well, yes, Dr. Halloran. Hopefully, as you mentioned, this post-COVID time will be coming soon. That's for sure, especially for the humans and of course a lot of the animals under human care. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting season, that's for sure. And so for people listening to this podcast, what are some of the best ways that they can either actively get involved with your organization, or in these COVID times, more passively, like either through memberships or donations? I know you guys have an adoption wish list. Could you maybe talk about how people could get involved with Save the Chimps?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that we're the largest privately funded chimpanzee sanctuary. Everything we do comes from private donations, and so we have very dedicated supporters that keep us running. But it's massively, massively important to donate to places like Save the Chimps. So if you're interested in helping that out, going to the website, and yeah, as you said, there's ways to adopt a chimpanzee, provide for their care, and there's all sorts of other ways that you can support us. So I encourage everyone to go to savethechimps.com and
.org.
Thank you to everyone to go to Save the Chimps.
Try again.
I should know that.
It's all good.
That everyone should go to savethechimps.org and participate in a way that you can in helping these chimpanzees.
Yeah, and I was looking around your website. It's beautiful, and your social media. I follow you guys on all the different platforms. So I highly recommend everybody listening to do that. Go to savethechimps.org, and then also social media, just search Save the Chimps and they'll pop right up. But your website's beautiful. It's very well done and very informative. And I've noticed too, there's also, of course, there's financial donations are probably obviously the best, but there's also like wish list items as far as blankets go and things like that, where maybe even if you don't have a lot of money to give because you're a student or you experience hardships due to COVID, there's still ways that you could give items and things like that that would be very, very much appreciated by the several chimpanzees. Because anybody that's familiar, that's spent any time at an accredited zoo watching great apes, they love a lot of household items that you and I would enjoy or your children would enjoy. And so it might, as you're cleaning out your closets or houses during these, when we're all stuck at home, check out the website. See if a hand-me-down can go your way towards Save the Chimps, and you'll definitely make a lot of people happy. That's for sure. And just I think too, by following Save the Chimps on social media, you can stay abreast to when they do start doing this chimpathon. I know I'm going to keep an eye on that. That sounds like a great way for me to get involved. As I'm not a runner. I'm more of like a trotter or a jogger on a good day. But things like that, where I can actually do something I enjoy doing, but helping animals while I'm doing it, and of course, getting to see your amazing facility there. And so, now, Dr. Halloran, I do have a really important final question. You've had an amazing career thus far, as far as working with primates and studying them, writing books, which of course we'll put all that information on our show notes and on our website, so people can learn more about Save the Chimps and of course about the books that and of course about the book that you authored. But with your successful career, what advice do you have for students or people that are listening that would like to get involved with grade 8 conservation?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to educate yourself on what the conservation and welfare issues are right now, because sometimes it's things that you might not even really be thinking of. So just keeping apprised of what's going on. I would join professional societies as a way to do that. Joining societies like American Society of Primatology or International Primate Society is a good way to see what's going on in the world of chimpanzees and great apes, something that, things that dig a little bit deeper than maybe popularly available magazines and news sources, and get all angles of what's going on. And I would also recommend that if you're interested in going into grade 8 conservation or grade 8 welfare, that you take classes or even major in things like maybe anthropology or wildlife biology, fields that lend itself to learning about the process and learning about how you actually go about conservation, and really keep updated on what the different conservation sites are doing, and going to reputable places to find out about that. If you're involved in the zoo world, AZA Safe is a great way to keep updated on good things that are going on in terms of conservation across species. So I would look at all of those things. I would also do a field course. And that's always the recommendation I give all students. If you are interested in animals, even if you're just interested in captive welfare, seeing animals in the wild is really, really important, just to understanding them. So finding a field course somewhere, somehow, of whatever species is really important.
Yes, I agree. Even locally, as far as getting involved with nature groups, doing nature hikes, it's really amazing in this day and age with technology. There's a group on Facebook that you can join, as far as whether you want to do citizen science and count frogs or really anything. You don't necessarily have to travel to Africa, although that's also fun too. I highly recommend it if you can swing it, especially when you're younger, you don't have as many responsibilities. But even just, either going to your local accredited zoo and watching the animal behavior there, or in your own backyard. You don't have to travel to these far off places. And then, of course, with social media and just the internet, I mean, I learned so much on several YouTube videos about people that are passionate that are actually able to go into the wild and things like that. So no, it's definitely getting involved. I think is key in exploring nature and just following your dreams and knowing that yes, if we save chimpanzees, we can save ourselves. So it's a great humanitarian cause. And then of course you get to look at animals all day, which is pretty awesome, if you ask me. Well, Dr. Halloran, it's been a real pleasure talking with you today. And I just have to ask one last small question. By any chance, are you hiring?
Right now, we're not. We're but always check our website, or if you go to the AZA jobs board, we always post there when we are, and it's it's a pretty great place to work, and because of that, a lot of people.
I'm not asking for the audience. Yes. I'm asking for myself. For all of us. Yes.
I would keep checking the AZA jobs board, because when we do have openings, that's where we post them.
Awesome. Well, you have been so wonderful and informative to talk to. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I cannot wait for myself and some of our listeners when Save the Chimps is open again for a little bit more public involvement, for us to head that way. And your facility just sounds incredible, and your mission is just heroic. So thank you to you and your staff and your team for all you do to help these chimpanzees live out their life in a safe and well cared for place. So thank you for your time, and I will definitely be in touch with you for sure. So take care.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you.